What's up, YouTube? Bay Area Baller back again. This is the debut of my new weekly show, 49ers Fired Up. I think you guys are going to really like this one. In a minute, I'm going to get to my scorching hot takes. But first, I got to bring on my guest, that Niner guy. What's going on?
What's up, buddy? How we doing?
Hey, I'm fired up. Debuting this new show, ready to talk some ball. But how you doing, Johnny?
I'm doing great, man. I'm staying off Twitter, which is really smart. But I'm doing well. I think we got a hell of a team here. Just they gotta have to think. There's gonna be bumps and bruises, but I think people just need to have some patience. But I can't be more excited going into the season because we really don't know what's going to happen, and those seem to be the most fun seasons to be a fan a part of. So I'm game.
Absolutely. And I got high hopes for this team, Johnny. I was telling you, pre-show that I think it's a Super Bowl caliber team. If things break right, I think this team has massive potential. We got a lot of talent up and down this roster. But Johnny, I was cooking up some scorching hot takes that I want you to let me know, am I out of my mind? Are they realistic? But I will preface it with this, Johnny. Last year, one of my bold predictions, one of my hot takes I was putting out before the season started, Arden Key was going to be second on this team in sacks. And you had guys, I'm not going to call out any beat reporters. Some people didn't think Arden Key was going to make this team. All right. And I was letting them know, Arden Key, this guy has the pass rushing tools to be successful, especially being coached up by Chris Kosaric. I was pounding the table. So that was my hot take from last year. It came true. So you might scoff, and the viewers, you guys might scoff at some of my hot takes, but hey, just know it could happen.
It always could happen. You never know. You never know how the season's going to roll out. So I'm excited, man. Let's hear him.
No doubt. What's up, Payo Time? Thanks for stopping by. One of the few Rams fans I actually like is this guy right here. Sup, Payo?
I really hope you don't have any arm fatigue.
Niners Warriors, what's popping? And then we got Bryant coming down. What's up, Bryant? There he is, baller, the shot caller. I like that one. If I have a freestyle baller and shot caller, I'm definitely working those in together.
I like it.
But let's get to these scorching hot takes. All right. Oh, I gotta play. Yeah, you're gonna like this one.
Scorching hot takes.
There we go. Off the bat, Johnny, hot take number one. Danny Gray's going to average 16 yards per catch. And that would put him in the top 10. Last year, if you're averaging 16 yards a catch, you're in the top 10 of all NFL receivers. And that's my hot take. Let me just tell you why real quick before I hear you. I'm expecting him to come on and be a field stretcher. And we're hearing reports in training camp that he is winning deep, whether the ball's overthrown or not, he's winning deep. So I expect Danny Gray to come in and have a high yards per catch. And here's the thing, Johnny, and I loved me some Danny Gray. I was pounding the table before the draft that the Niners should grab this guy. I think his speed is dynamic. Now, what they did with him at SMU, Johnny, he was lined up predominantly on the right side of the field. Mm-hmm. So he wasn't running all the routes from all the spots. That's why I do feel like as a rookie, he might need a little seasoning because SMU was just keeping him in that role on the right side of the field. And we know Kyle Shanahan's going to line him up all over. So there might be a bit of a learning curve. But Danny Gray, 16 yards a catch this year, it's happening.
See, that's actually possible because so I think the first question you need to ask Danny Gray is a question that I think a lot of people would is how is his blocking? And let me explain the reason why. Danny Gray is going to have a hard time getting on the field to start because he's not really a slot receiver, right? And that's kind of the spot that you would say that was up for grabs for number one because Debo is going to be more on the outside. So is Aiyuk. So slot being, and the Niners are mostly in 3 receiver sets. So how is he going to get on the field in usage first off? Well, you put Debo in the backfield. That's always a way to do it. Get another receiver on the field, right? Cal can get creative and do motion. But going back to the guy who I imagine him being for this offense is Taylor Gabriel for the Falcons for the 2 years Kyle Shanahan had him. So I think what's going to happen a lot with Danny Gray is he's going to be in one of those sub packages at receiver where they take Aiyuk or Debo off the field for a play, right? Give him a blow, right? And a lot of those times, like this is where Kyle's offense can get a little predictable, is when those guys come off the field, they tend to run the ball more, right? Makes a lot of sense, right? You got Debo or you got Kittle or you got Aiyuk taking a blow. You're going to give the ball to running back on first down, right? Putting Danny Gray in the game, you run a little quick play action fake off that and take a deep shot. So those are the type of plays I think for Danny Gray early that you'll see him in. But the hardest part for him is I don't see him cracking 20 snaps a game. That's
no, you're right. And that's why that's why my hot take is more yards per catch. And I didn't put, some crazy amount of yards on and said, oh, Danny Gray's going to get have a 500 yard season. I can't expect that. But like I'm thinking, I think Danny Gray's going to be a field stretcher. He's going to get targets down the field. We're going to see a willingness to stretch the field with Trey Lance at the helm. And I'm excited about it. I liked Danny Gray pre-draft. I'm sticking with it. When I was hearing reports that he wasn't looking good, I was saying, hey, be patient, because I watched a lot of tape on this kid Gray, and he's a playmaker.
Oh, yeah, there's no question. I mean, again, he was not supposed to be the guy at SMU last year, Like that was supposed to be the Reggie Ragland.
Roberson,
that's it.
Yeah, it's supposed to be Reggie Roberson. And that's when I was watching SMU. See, Roberson was lined up on the left side of the field.
Yep.
And then Danny Gray was lined up on the right. And that's just how they did it. Now, occasionally they would do trips left and Danny Gray would move over left, or they'd go trips right. But essentially they kept those two. There's two stud receivers on opposite sides of the field.
Yeah. No, and it's fair. But I think the one thing for Danny Gray is like, he needs to show he can be a part of the offense, right? And that's the hardest part about being. There's a reason why rookies don't play in Kyle Shanahan's offense. There's a reason for it, right? There's a lot of nuances, a lot of different moving pieces. And I think the fastest way for him to play is for him to be blocking. If he's a good blocker, he will get on the field, and that will set up those play action fakes where I think he's really going to shine with Trey. Yeah. That's where that prediction comes true.
Blocking, that's something that we got to see more of. We know Shanahan loves his wide receiver, requires the wide receivers to block. And Danny Gray, the physicality, that's one thing I'm not certain of. I can tell you this guy's really good stretching the field, and he's dynamic after the catch. But how physical he is, I'm not quite sure yet. I've heard that he was having some trouble getting off press, right? Yeah. D'Amico, it sounds like at camp, this defense has been running a lot of press man, and I'm hearing Gray has had some troubles getting off of press, but if he does beat it, he's gone.
Yeah. And with his speed, if they're able to put in sets with Debo and Aiyuk and Kittle on the field, he's the one getting single covered every time. And so it's not crazy for him to catch 20 balls but have 400 yards, because he could have some serious deep shots in this offense. But again, we'll see. But the key for him is getting on the field. And right now, that's a big uphill battle with Juwan Jennings and Ray McLeod. God, I can't speak, above him on the depth chart.
Why don't we get the scorching hot take number 2? Let me know what you're thinking on this one, Johnny. And it's Kemoko Turay will finish second on this team in sacks. We know Bosa's going to be, should be first. And that second spot, we know it's going to be a lot of bodies rotating in. We got a plethora of pass rushers. But when we signed Kemoko Turay, and I just went to watching the film, and I'm seeing his acceleration at the snap, I'm seeing his hand usage. I love my pass rushers to be able to swipe that lineman's hands away. And I saw that with Kemoko. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at it. Yeah, Drake Jackson looks promising. I do like some Jordan Willis. There's a lot of names. There's a lot of pass rushers. Ebu Cam was flashing at the end of last year. But the guy I'm picking for second on the team in sacks, Kemoko Turay.
Yeah, no, I mean, Turay's got a lot of talent, right? Like there's no question about that. He was a second-round pick. When he plays, he does get pressure. The thing with Turay, and that's the harder part to talk about, is that he doesn't play a lot. He's a true specialist. He's truly going to be a third down specialist in this defense. And so right off the bat, your snaps are cut in half. And if Ebukam is a starter. Like, he's going to get the first crack to be the additional edge rusher behind Bosa, unless they completely go off base. I don't think they're going to do that. They're going to rotate Ebukam maybe more than Bosa, but Ebukam's going to get the first crack. I think the guy who's the sneaky pick for that is actually Charles Omenihu. because I feel like Amenahu's size he's gonna be able to take the Arden Key role in the turbo package because he has more length and size than Key. He's not as fast or as good of a pass rusher, but the one thing I think the Niners really want to get back to is collapsing the pocket. But just because they're going to go more press man, the more airspace you take away from quarterbacks, the more interceptions you're going to get, all that stuff. And I think his size creates different problems with his size and speed versus Trey, who's going to play. That's the other thing too. It's not like he's not going to play. And same with Drake Jackson. You've got to get them on the field at some point because they give Bosa and them a blow, and you can still give a lot of speed off the edge, right? Because both those guys can freaking fly. But I feel like if there's a sneaky pick for it, it's Charles Omenihu. But I'm not going to discount Eric Armstead. If he comes back, if he's healthy week 1, I think he'll get there.
No, definitely. I mean, there's a few players in contention.
There's like 5.
Yeah, definitely. And Omenihu, I like how you brought up his potential to move inside. I'm thinking Omenihu is going to be at D end on a lot of run-based downs.
Yep.
I'm not sure, but he could definitely move inside on passing downs. But I would personally rather have on third down, instead of Omenihu at D end, I'd rather have a Trey or a Drake Jackson, or even Jordan Willis was flashing some speed, man. You've seen Jordan Willis's combine numbers. I mean, that dude's a freak.
Yeah, for his size, you wouldn't think he's as fast as he is. I mean, hell, he got pretty fast back there on that block punt that saved the season last year. So, I mean, the dude's a really good athlete. And you're right. On pass rush, I don't love Omenihu out there. But at the same time, though, in the Cowboys game, he played the edge, and he had some pretty awesome pass rush reps in that playoff game. I know he got the sack and a half, but he also, for the most part, if you go back and watch that game, he kind of manhandled Tyron Smith. It was impressive. I think that one of the early reports from Barrows, I think it was out of camp, was that Omenihu is Bosa's backup, but he's probably the first guy off the bench. I think that was one of the ones. Maybe it may have been Eric Branch. I'm not quite sure, but they were saying that Omenihu was getting a ton of reps. Now, a back could also be because he's technically Bosa's backup in the rundown scheme, right? And they're still doing install. But I think that's something important. I think the 49ers really like him. They traded for him.
They traded to go get him. So they obviously see something in him.
So, yeah, I think he's definitely a guy to watch out for. Just because I feel like he gives him a very similar skill set to Armstead. And he's actually he's better on the edge than Armstead is. Armstead he's just too long and just like too kind of awkward on the edge. He's much better on the inside. So I mean, we'll see. But I like the pick though. Turray is a possibility, but I just don't think he's hit more than 300 snaps.
And I got a couple more hot takes coming in, but first, everyone watching, make sure you like and subscribe right now. That way, I've heard if you like the video, more people come watch. So we want that. Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Scorching hot takes.
There it is. Dos Mas hot takes. Fuego, as they say. Fuego. Kevin Givens will have a breakout season. Hot take number 3. Kevin Givens, that's my guy. Snap count has been relatively low the last few years, but I'm expecting an increase. We know, hey, Javon Kinlaw, I think he's got all the potential in the world, but I think you're going to somewhat limit his snaps, right? Ridgeway's dinged up right now. Armstead's dinged up right now. Kevin Givens is a guy, Johnny. When I'm watching the film, I see Kevin Givens shooting these gaps, and it's like he will jump a gap. The guard's right in front of him, and he'll jump a gap so sudden that the linemen sometimes barely even get a hand on him. And I'm expecting a breakout year. The guy's only got 1.5 sacks through 2.5 or 3 years, however long he's been in the league. But I'm expecting more tackles for loss, more impact from Kevin Givens, breakout season incoming.
So Kevin Givens might have to have a breakout season for this defense to be good. And here's why. We were talking about this before the show. I feel like, if you go down the list of 49ers issues, problems, right? I know people are going to talk about Trey. I'm not as concerned as Trey is with everybody else. I'm really not. Offensive line, big issue. Pass rush, not so much. But run defense, that is something that's a little questionable. The Niners got run on last year a bit, and that was with DJ Jones. And so we lose DJ Jones. When Kinlaw played, the run defense was pretty solid. I'm not going to talk crap about Kinlaw. I like his game. I like his overall power. But if he gets hurt again, and if Armstead's out, who is going to play D tackle? So Kevin Givens is in a really interesting spot where he could be a really important player on this team really fast. And right now it's looking like he's getting a lot of reps, which is great. He's really good at gap shooting, like you just said, but he does struggle a little bit in the power run game with the double teams. But overall, I don't know if he's going to have a breakout year, but he needs to have a solid year. Like when he comes in the game, they cannot get when they do the full rotation move out and then give the two D tackles in there. He cannot be getting blown off the ball. So I think he sneakily needs to have a very good season.
And to be honest, Johnny, I like him. I mean, I like him in the run game, but if you're going to ask him to take on double teams, I don't think that's Kevin Givens' forte. I like him because he's very disruptive and he can get into the backfield very easily. I think, while he's only had 1.5 sacks, I've seen him pressure the quarterback a ton. And that's also why I liked Arden Key when we signed him from the Raiders, because he wasn't very productive within his sack production over in Oakland. But when he came here, I said, hey, he's got potential because he just lives around the quarterback.
He's a good pass rusher, but the thing is, his role on this team is not going to – it doesn't fit right now, right? Because it's not what the Niners love to do. They like to take defensive tackles off the field in those downs and put more DNs on the field, right? So he's going to get most of his work on first and second down. So in general,
you're right. I'm thinking maybe there's a chance that he could do some Arden Key type stuff. He's nowhere near as long. He's nowhere near as long as Key is, and that's why I like when you brought up Omenahu. But Kevin Givens, the dude is so quick and he's fast. He played some running back in high school, played linebacker. Actually, I believe I was tweeting with his agent because I've been hyping up Kevin Givens for so long. His agent retweets me all the time.
That's awesome.
His agent told me via tweet that Givens was recruited to Penn State as a linebacker. And I can see that. He's just so quick. So if we want to stunt our tackles, which I know we did a lot of, maybe not a lot, but we definitely did some stunts on the D line. I think Givens is a guy who you can stunt and free up, and he's kind of small, but he's quick. You can kind of sneak around a guy and get a sack.
No, for sure. I like his pass rushing ability. He's flashed it. I don't know when he's going to be on the field. I think that's the bigger thing, right? He's a big boy. He can definitely move, but this team doesn't. Unfortunately for him, they don't need another Kevin Givens body type. They need a Puna Ford.
I know what you mean. And they got Kalia Davis is kind of like another kind of guy like that too. Who I'm expecting Kalia Davis to start on PUP. Are you getting that vibe?
He's not going to touch the field this season. He's getting the full red. The Niners love a full red shirt guy. They've been doing this for the last 10 years. Draft a guy coming off an injury. Draft him in the 6th round. It's no big deal. But you put him on PUP. It's a free red shirt year roster spot. It's good. It's good cap management because if you hit on it, it's a steal for 3 years. At the worst, he never gets healthy. You cut a 6th round pick. It's not the end of the world. But yeah, Kalia Davis is a similar body type, but he's bigger though. He's bigger than Givens though, physically.
He is. Yeah, you're right. He is. He is. Okay, I got my last scorching hot take for you. Let me know what you think about it. And it's about my boy Ray Ray. When we signed Ray and I was watching, I liked what he was bringing to the table. Ray McLeod will outgain Jawan Jennings in yardage. What do you think about that one, Johnny?
Well, if Jawan Jennings can't catch the football, then yeah. Pretty much. No. I mean, I've heard he's had some drop problems at camp, and I heard
I've been hearing that too. He went like 4 or 5 days of practice without catching a ball.
Yeah, nothing. So that's tough. I would say for Ray right now is obviously he's going to be the slot receiver. I think it's going to be in conjunction with Jawan Jennings because I think Kyle loves Jennings' ability in the run game. I think he loves him putting him in motion or being even a play side blocker on a run game. I mean, he has actually a really good blocker, Jawan Jennings. So that's going to keep him on.
He's physical. I mean, he's big. He's physical.
Yeah. So that's going to keep him on the field more. But when they're in 3rd and longs and stuff, it's going to be Ray, I think, for the most part, unless Jawan, gets his stuff together. But that also is one of the reasons why I'm not as optimistic on Danny Gray, just because where is he going to fit? I think Ray can actually be a good outside receiver too. I mean, Ray's problem in Pittsburgh wasn't talent. It was fumbles. But his biggest problem in talent was they drafted Deontay Johnson, they drafted Chase Claypool, and they drafted James Washington. So those 3 guys are always on the field with Ben. And Juju
was there too.
And yeah, I forgot about Juju.
I know. I'm saying that's because the Steelers are always so deep at receiver.
Right.
So it's like it's hard for Ray to produce when you're wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5.
Yeah. And his biggest contribution on the team is he's a real return man. The 49ers have a real return man for the first time and probably since Ted Ginn. He's a guy who can take a punt with very little coverage and get 20 yards and flip the field. Those are going to be the things the 49ers couldn't do last year. Their return game was awful. And I think they recognize, having Trey Lance, the one thing they can't keep doing is getting in the 3-and-out game with bad field position with this defense, because you keep them longer on the field, it causes problems and you're going to get more points. But if you got a good return man who can kind of help flip the field a little bit when you start getting into those 3-and-out situations, because they're going to happen this year, you might be able to steal a couple points here and there. So I think that's where Ray Ray's going to make most of his contributions in the return game. But it would not shock me at all. He's a starting slot for, big time passing downs. It seems like him and Trey are starting to get it together a little bit. There is a little fumble problem, but overall, I like Ray. I was a fan of the signing. I was like, we finally have a return man and someone who can really move in the slot. So,
no doubt. I mean, I think he's the best returner we've had since Ted Ginn.
Yeah.
Unless you got a name between
Richie James was sneaky good in 2019.
I didn't object to Richie James.
Yeah, he couldn't figure it out. But in 2019, you go back and he had like 5 or 6 big returns. Like he actually had a pretty good returning season that year.
Yeah,
but
that's a
really
name.
Yeah, Ted Ginn actually though by far was the best return man we've had since John Taylor. I mean, let's be real. Yeah. And Dion.
Dion was a quick season, then he dipped. Okay, that's going to do it for the Scorching Hot Takes. Now, the next topic is the burning questions.
Burning questions.
There it is. Let's see. What's the first burning question here, Johnny? Yes. How do you see the running back carries being divvied up? I'll let you get straight into it. How do you think they're going to divide up these carries?
I mean, it's Elijah Mitchell's show. I'm not too crazy concerned about, it's when Elijah Mitchell's on the field, he is the starting running back. First, foremost, doesn't matter, right? What's going to happen, though, is I think Kyle's going to do what he always does. He rides the hot hand. Whoever the last week at camp who is the best running the ball right now, he's going to be the number 2 guy off the bench.
I mean, we saw Raheem Mostert just take the reins in 2020, start going off.
Yeah. Well, Kyle,
and he was the guy.
Well, Kyle in 2018, I think a lot of people forget, he tried working him in there. Remember he had that huge game against the Raiders and he broke his arm. He compound fractured his arm. Like that year, he had that big game in Green Bay on Monday night too. He had 2 touchdowns, and that's when Matthew Berry went on that crazy fantasy football rant. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life because Alfred Morris didn't get him 1 point, and Mostert had 2 touchdowns.
Wow.
Off topic, but one of the funniest things I've ever seen. But anyway, Kyle is trying to get Mostert going for a while, and I feel like right now it's going to be who is the best, who is the hottest guy that Kyle wants to run out because he does it by feel. A lot of coaches do that too, right? New England.
Okay, week 1, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Week 1, I want you to tell me what players getting what percentage of the carries.
Mitchell 75%, Debo 15%, Trey 2%, the remaining Ty Davis Price.
Yeah, we're eerily similar, and I think what it could be at the start of the year might not be what it is at the end of the year. Essentially meaning I think Ty Davis Price is going to come on strong at some point. It might not be week 1, week 2, week 3. Like week 1, I'm with you. I'm thinking it's going to be, Eli for 70, then maybe Debo 15. What does that leave me? And then 15 is just the other guys, whether it's TDP, Sermon, or Hasty, whatever it is. But so sounds like we're on the same page where it's going to be Eli Mitchell early and often. But like you said, Shanahan isn't afraid to adapt. This guy will adapt. Whoever's looking good, whoever's running the hardest, whether it's if Jeff Wilson's right, and I love Jeff Wilson. That's why I want him to make the team. That dude just runs hard.
Yeah. No, Jeff is awesome. It sounds, and Grant's been saying, it sounds like his explosiveness has kind of come back because it was rough last year watching him play. Like, he didn't look like the same player at all. And that's bummed. That's a
No.
bummer. But
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I feel like he's probably the odd man out this year just because I don't think they're going to cut Trey Sermon just yet. That's tough,
It sounds like you think he's a candidate maybe to get cut, Trey Sermon. That'd be
Yeah,
a shocker to me.
I think it's not out of the question. I mean, think about it, right?
Yeah.
If that kid from Georgia is showing up, Jeff Wilson's showing up, you cannot cut Ty Davis Price because you will look the fool. Like as a roster construction, you can't do that.
You kind of look like a fool for taking Sermon and cutting him too. Same round. I mean, yeah, we've seen Sermon for a year, but did we see him?
Yeah, we didn't. He didn't really had a chance, but it's not exactly a lock he makes the team. I mean, it's a higher percentage he does, but there's probably a 30% chance if like something goes wrong in the rest of weeks of camp that they could.
So who's the odd man out, Johnny? Who's the odd man out?
Well, the kid from Georgia Tech is definitely going to want the practice squad, right? Because I mean, he wasn't drafted, and but I think Jeff Wilson's the odd man out.
I'm gonna say Hasty. I'm not the biggest Hasty guy.
I got Hasty ain't making the team. I didn't even include him in my thought process.
Oh,
yeah, he ain't making the team.
Oh, well, I think then you might be able to keep Wilson then if you're higher on him because we keep 4, right? We keep 4 plus Juice, or we keep 3 plus Juice.
Well, the other thing too is how many tight ends and receivers they're keeping. Like usually they keep.
It's got to be 3 tight ends. We can't keep more than 3. I mean, our tight end room is just like, man. Well, I wanted us to get a free agent, didn't happen.
Well, they're gonna keep 4 though because Warner's gonna start the year on PUP, so that's gonna save a roster spot. At receiver, definitely 5 are making the team, right? I mean, Gray, Ray, Juwan, Debo, Aiyuk. The question is, do they keep that 6th receiver? Does that impact it? Because I also think this year they're going to keep 10 offensive linemen because of the kind of the burning questions that we're going to get into. Is that hey, look at that plug?
Burning questions.
That's something that they might want to consider, right? They just signed a couple of veterans. They signed John Wills, he's an NFL veteran. He's been a starter in the league for a little bit, so. I don't think he's got signed to get cut. I think they got him because they're afraid of their depth there. So I think this roster construction can be a little bit different than what we've seen in the past.
Let's go to the next burning question, which is, what is your concern level with the O-line?
So this is an interesting question because I feel like everyone's really pointing at the guards. And I'm actually not as concerned about the guards as everybody else is. And I'm going to get to the reason why. And I had a feeling about this, and then I heard about what happened over the weekend at camp, and it was the exact reason why I thought Aaron Banks is going to be just fine. Because the guy is a huge mauler in the run game. That's, I think, one of the big things. And I think people this is one thing about football, and during this time, I think people overreact to. It's one-on-one pass rush deals. As a former offensive and defensive lineman, let me tell you something. Those pass rush deals heavily favor the defense. Okay, that's not real life. Like, there are chips, there are double teams, right? So you get a free run off the ball. It's not a fair drill for offensive linemen, okay? So defense should win that more often than not.
So wait, when they say Spencer Burford has been dominating,
yeah, that's what I want to get to.
One-on-one drills. Okay, all right, my bad. Keep going.
That's what I want to get to. Yeah, Banks has been losing those, but in the run game though, when you see him in team drills, he's wrecking people with Trent and with George on that side too. So that's a really big part of this team. Don't kid yourself. This is a 60-40 team. We're going to run the ball 60% of the time, throw the ball 40% of the time. But, and Banks, the pass protection is going to be better. He's going to get help from the center. He's going to get help. They do slide protection, so it's not going to be the end of the world. Burford, on the other hand, who was my favorite draft pick, who we never got a chance to follow up and do the rest of the prospects, but he was a guy that I'd pegged as one of my favorite guys on day 3. And I was for once I called to pick the Niners. A player that I liked finally got picked by the Niners that I was like day 3 guys. Sweet. Burford was a guy who played right guard his first year as a starter. Then he played right tackle. Then he played left tackle. He's killing people in one-on-one pass rush drills. Right?
That's what I'm hearing.
Extremely well. And so I'm a huge fan of him as a player. He's going to make mistakes. But I'm not so worried about them because he's also a good run blocker. It's the center position I'm worried about. That's the one thing where I'm really scratching my head going, oh boy, this could be a disaster. I mean, because for whatever they want to say about Jake Brendel, they can say whatever the hell they want. All the measurables. I don't care. Can he actually play football?
Okay, come on. You got to come at my take then, because I don't know if you've heard what I've been saying, but I'm actually not too worried about the center position. And let me
Okay.
tell you why. As long as Brendel knows where the offensive line needs to slide and he's calling out the protections correctly and he's snapping accurately, like that stuff is necessary to be good at center. You got to put your players in the right spot. You got to snap accurately. But I feel like we don't ask our centers to do a ton of one-on-one blocking. Like it's a lot of tandem stuff where they're working a double team with the guard and then they're getting to the next level. So it's like I don't see defensive tackles lining up at the zero tech right over our center, where he's really got to be able to anchor. Like I don't see that. So I think as long as he's putting guys in the right spot, snapping okay, I think we're all right. But you might feel differently. Let me know.
The biggest problem with that is that look at the 4 best teams in the NFC. Tell me what defense they run. They run a 3-4.
Is that through all 3 4s?
Packers, Bucks, Rams. They all run a 3-4. The Eagles, I'm not including them yet, but they're a pretty sweet roster. But as far as 4 biggest are in our competition, they all run a 3-4. When we play the AFC, the Broncos are running the 3-4 and the Chargers, right?
But even in a 3-4, I feel like most defensive tackles aren't lining up immediately over a center. Like they're shading towards a guard one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, there's a shade, but that's actually I played center. It's actually a harder block to block the shade than head up, right? Because head up, you're able to like position your body a little easier. Because you know what side you're going to. But when you have that shade, you kind of have to root and dig them out. And I'm
expecting you got some help. At least you got an arm.
Yeah.
I'm expecting you got an arm from a guard as well. That was just what I saw. I don't think I don't see it. I didn't see Alex Mack anchoring down a ton, blocking one-on-one.
But he did in the playoffs, though. That was one of the reasons why the 49ers yards per carry dipped heavily, right? Like they anchored him down. Like if you go back and watch those games, you don't see Alex Mack anywhere near the second level for those 3, like for most of those 3 games, because he couldn't get there, right? Because they did that back shade alignment on the zones. So they basically were holding Alex Mack down. So I think that's the one question I have. The center is so important in a zone-based game because you're right. You're always working those double teams, but when they matter most is when it's a 3-4 and you got a true nose on you or a shaded nose, and you have to try and pass off a backside block to a guard to get to the second level, and that's a very hard block. And I don't know if Daniel Brunskill and Jake Brendel can do that. And I think by far it's by far the biggest question as far as starters go on this team, not including Trey Lance, but I think he's going to be fine.
Okay. All right. I was glad to hear your side of that because that's what I've been kind of preaching is that I'm not too worried about center, but you are. Why don't we kick it to this next topic? What do we got next? Let me see here. Oh, it's Aiyuk, man, the star of the show in training camp. I want to ask you, what do you think Aiyuk's season is going to look like statistically?
Yeah, Aiyuk season's an interesting one, right? Because I feel like when Trey gets in trouble, that this is going to be the guy that's going to get a lot more of those, like, backyard football plays. When things break down, it's going to be Aiyuk and it's going to be Trey kind of finding plays. And I think Kittle's going to function into that as well. But I think we do this every year in camp. We overblow someone a little bit. Guys, let's be real. Kittle, this offense is running through Deebo Samuel and George Kittle in the passing game. Now, I'm not saying that Aiyuk's not going to have a much better season. I think he is. I think he's going to be damn near close to 1,000 yards, if not over 1,000 yards. And maybe have more touchdowns because I think him in the red zone, him and Trey working together on the backside red zone stuff has looked pretty damn good from what the minor clips we've seen in camp. But I think we got to put it in context, right? If Deebo is not lining up in the backfield so much, and they're still going to have the intermediate passing game, Deebo's going to eat. And same with George Kittle, right? I think the one thing about camp is I think we're starting to hear that Trey and Kittle are connecting more and more each day, right? And Kittle, I understand Kittle's not practicing a ton, and nor should he. The Niners are being very smart with him. Don't get him hurt now. We need him to be healthy in November. Slow him down a little bit. And so I feel like it's going to be a 3-headed monster, but it's going to be a bit of pick your poison, right? I think a lot of that's going to get dictated by how the defenses play the 49ers. Because Kyle, we've seen that. Like That one game against Arizona where Kyle was ripping the ball nonstop and, they couldn't hang on to it or couldn't complete passes. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the Seattle game in the first half when they're just ripping. I mean, Jimmy threw the ball like 22 times. And he made a bunch of completions. He's like, why are you throwing the ball so much? I'm like, well, that's what the defense was giving me. It's a really simple answer for Kyle. And it's going to be depending on the looks. So
it always depends on the looks with Kyle.
Yeah, he's not going to force it. I mean, he literally learned from Monty Kiffin and Mike Tomlin not to.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing, Johnny. In the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, that's the problem.
The Chiefs, they were loading the box just because they feared the run, in my opinion. And Shanahan saw it and he deviated. He started throwing. Jimmy's throwing incompletions. Kittle's open. We don't want to rehash these things, but it's almost like the defense can dictate what they want to give up or what they want Shanahan to call. If you want him to pass the rock, put 8 or 9 in the box. He's going to call a pass play.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I never said Kyle was perfect. It's just that's he understands that try to run the highest percentage play you can against a front, right? And running the ball into a 9-man front's not the best idea. No, I get that, but a lot of that has to do with who he had playing quarterback, because there are a number of plays in the Super Bowl where Kittle's running wide open and he didn't see him, or even that one where Emmanuel Sanders broke free on the backside and he just didn't get him. And that I'm not talking about the deep post. There was one, I think he ran like a corner route, and Sanders was had a walk-in touchdown. And that's going to be a problem for this team anymore, because Trey's going to get the ball out there, and Aiyuk's going to thrive. Now, I'm not saying I don't, from a stat point, I would say he's going to catch the ball over 70 times, probably have around 1,000+ yards, and probably a higher touchdown rate than you'd expect, because I feel like they use him more as a possession guy versus the field stretcher. And I think that's where he's going to thrive. It's in the short, intermediate, and then on the outside. So, I have high hopes for Aiyuk, but I'm not getting carried away, because we can't forget that George Kittle and Deebo Samuel are still really good.
And you're right. I mean, we don't expect Trey Lance to throw the ball a ton. I think we're in agreement on that. And, when I was typing out this question, I wanted to have an answer to it, obviously. So I went with my prediction, 69 catches for, I think it was 1,048 yards. So just a tick over 1,000 with the 69 catches. That's where I got Aiyuk. Let's get to the next burning question. How you feeling about this D line, Johnny?
I mean, this pass rush might be the best in the NFL. I mean, I get it's early in practice, but the fact that the second teamers are playing like first teamers, like that's something special. So I have no really concerns about the pass rush, because they're 3 deep on the edge. I feel like they have good players. They can insert in and out regardless of that. My bigger concern is on the inside. And we talked about that with Givens' situation, right? If Armstead is starting at D tackle. So I think that's one thing that's going to help that out a lot. But
Johnny, I'm sorry to cut you off. Don't lose your train of thought, because you're about to talk about Javon. But the 49ers, man, we can free up like 20-something mil by cutting this guy named Jimmy. And at that stage of the game, I was looking at D tackles after Armstead went down and Ridgeway went down. I was like, who are the free agent D tackles out there? And there's a couple guys that intrigue me. I know this is off the cuff, but Sheldon Richardson, pretty darn good football player. Yeah. And if you want just like a pure, I weigh 330 pounds, I can maybe take on some double teams. That would be Sheldon. Who's the Browns D tackle who's bounced around? Sheldon
Richardson.
Day? No, not Sheldon Richardson. No, Danny Shelton. Danny Shelton.
Oh, the big,
not
the
Sheldon.
Big
Shelton. Danny Shelton is out there. Sheldon Richardson is out there. Those are 2 guys that are intriguing me. I mean, should we kick the tires on a D tackle?
Sheldon's actually pretty good. Like, he played. I remember him playing for New England. Like, he was one of the reasons why they won that Super Bowl. Like, he manhandled the Rams' offensive line. Like, it was impressive. There's a reason why the Browns.
He's out there.
Yeah, the Browns the next year traded for like a 3rd-round pick to go bring him over. Like, he had a phenomenal Super Bowl in that game. Like, the Rams could not run the football and save their life. I think the 49ers need a bigger body for sure to kind of back up and be kind of a line plugger. but they have shown constantly they're not going to do that. They value maybe guys who are a little smaller and have better speed to really penetrate gaps. But I feel like it's the biggest weakness of their team is an interior defensive line group as far as stopping the run. I think when it comes to the pass rush, they're putting 3 or 4 defensive ends on the field, right? So I'm not really concerned there. But if stopping the run could be a real problem for this team, I hope the linebackers can kind of negate some of that. But that's, I think, where the 49ers get into trouble later in the season.
And if we go to more cover one, where we got one safety in center field, and that would allow, whether it's Ward or Hufanga to play in the box, that could also aid the run game.
Mm-hmm.
But, that remains to be seen. I'm expecting more man, whether it's cover one or with cover two with 2 safeties deep. I'm expecting more cover one, but we'll see. Next question I got for you. Let's
Burning questions.
What's the plan for slot corner?
I don't think they know. I really don't think they know. They have Denard. And Denard was a first-round pick. He was actually pretty sweet at Michigan State. I remember him.
Dude, that was a decade ago, though.
I know, it was so long ago. But I mean, he's. Did
he come out with? Was that the Justin Gilbert and Joe Hayden draft? That might have been that draft because I was.
Might have been.
Yeah,
it might have been. Talk about a bust corner draft, Jesus. But yeah, no. Denard's. He's at the very least a serviceable NFL cornerback, right? I think they liked Samuel Womack. I mean, they clearly love him because he's that guy who they drafted who no one saw coming, like they do every year. There seems to be one guy that comes out of nowhere. So I think they do like him a lot. I mean, what their area scout was pounding, literally freaking out, pounding the table to draft him in the 5th round. That doesn't happen often, right?
Really? I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I heard. I think Middlecoff was talking about it. He was saying
okay.
I think it was him who said the area scout lost their mind, was no, we have to take this Samuel Womack kid. We have to take Samuel Womack.
I like that. If you want a guy, say it with conviction.
Well,
all right. I got some fantasy football sleepers who I'm not gonna tweet out because I got 6 guys in my league who are watching my tweets with hawk eyes, waiting to steal my dudes. But if anyone out there needs some fantasy football sleepers, hit me up on Twitter via DM. I'll give you the goods.
Those are always sleepers are the best. But yeah, I mean, but a lot of area scouts don't do that because that can be the guy who can get you fired. If you bang the table for the wrong guy, the people don't forget.
Unless you're Kyle Shanahan banging the table for Joe Williams. We need Joe Williams.
Yeah, well, that's different. That's different when you're the head coach and no one can tell you what to do. So except for the owner. So that's a little different. For those area guys, they don't do that often. So that's one of those, that's intriguing to me, right? That
can make your career.
It can.
If Sam Womack turns out to be this elite slot corner, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Someone's going to know that this area scout spotted him. He was on. Guy's going to get a raise and going to get a job opportunity.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a tough grind, that job. And, you're constantly traveling around the country, and he was freaking out to get this kid. So I think that's what they want to do. Again, they slow play rookies for the most part. So I think starting the year, it's going to be Denard. I think that's what the Niners do. I mean, they started a veteran guy until the veteran guy can prove he can't do it. How many rookies have started for Kyle Shanahan? If you go back, except for, I'm not counting 17 and 18, right? Because other than 1st round picks, the whole team was terrible. You're playing all your draft picks, right? I'm talking about more now. The only guy is Nick Bosa, because Kyle even said Kyle was literally asked this question a week ago. Who is the one rookie of the last couple of years that didn't act like a rookie? Because he immediately goes Nick Bosa, immediately, with unfazed, unhesitation. So. I will see what happens, but I think Denard, it could be someone off the roster. People have been saying that they might play around with the 3 safety set and put Jimmy Ward there. I really hope they don't do that. I don't want Jimmy Ward in the box off the edge all the time. I think that's a mistake. Jimmy Ward is an elite, hybrid, strong safety. Do not make him change positions again. That's the problem that was the problem that made him a bust. Was that they didn't know to put him at
They
corner.
couldn't make up their mind his first
Couldn't
3
make
years what to do with him.
and couldn't
Outside
make up.
corner, inside corner, safety.
Yeah, it's like they kept switching him around. Don't do that. You got a great player who knows his role. Don't be messing with him anymore. I know he's a vet, but let him do what he does, because what he does is pretty damn good. And I don't want him covering Cooper Kupp and getting toasted, and because he's older. You know, we don't want him. You don't want that matchup. You want him as a safety. You don't want him as a corner. And I especially don't want Tarvarius Moore playing tons of snaps in the deep third as well, because we've seen him do that and just get absolutely roasted. So, you know, I'm skeptical about the safety play, but yeah, I think Jimmy Ward has to play safety, and maybe they sign someone. I don't think there's really anyone available in the slot that would really make them change their mind, but it wouldn't be shocking after the third game or so to see Samuel Womack in there.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And my only question is, why isn't my guy? I like Diamador Lenore. I've liked him better than Ambry Thomas. I was saying that last year, even when Lenore's season kind of went south and Ambry did start playing better towards the end of the season. I like Demo, and I feel like his profile fits the slot well. He's physical, you know, he's smaller. I feel like you could use him kind of like K1, where you can blitz him, you can hold up in the run fits, but by all reports, they haven't been working him in the slot. So that's one spot where I'm kind of scratching my head.
The Niners, they're very specific about whether you're a corner or a slot corner. I've really noticed that with them over the past couple of years. Like, they don't move someone in and out of the slot. They really treat it like it's going from like linebacker to D end. Like, they don't like treat it in conjunction. I feel like, I know that sounds weird, but like, I always feel like the slot guys are the slot guys and the outside corners are the outside corners, right? So, yeah, I think right now Lenore is the first corner off the bench if someone gets hurt, because it sounds like Ambry Thomas got benched himself off the second team. So, you know, that's a relatively big surprise to me about how poor it's been sounding for Ambry, man. But
yeah, man, they're throwing it all over Ambry Thomas.
Yeah. And I forgot about this part for the slot, but Jason Verrett could be a factor there, but I don't think he would start in the slot. I think he'd be one of those guys where if you're running a lot of man coverage, you bring him in on like third and longs. Because the truth with Verrett is you got to keep him healthy. You got to keep him healthy, right?
You don't want to ask him to hold up in the run game. We ask our slots to be physical.
Yeah, I'm saying like third and tens and stuff. We got third and longs, right?
Obvious passing downs.
That's when you stick Verrett in the game and you match up basically man on man. All right, you got one, you got two, you got three, right? And make life really hard on quarterbacks. I could see them doing that later in the season, because I think Kyle wants to be very cautious with Jason Verrett before he gets back out there. I know in his last presser he was talking about that. And so I don't think Verrett's going to be ready for week one. I think we won't see him for a bit.
I got to shout out my boy, Tony Orpeza. What's up, Tone? He said Drake Jackson went through something similar at USC when finding that right position. That was, you know, in correspondence with the Ward, how they were messing with him. Yeah, USC had him at linebacker, DN. They were dropping him in coverage. When I'm watching the USC tape, Johnny, they're dropping Drake Jackson in coverage. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like, this defensive coordinator's out thinking himself. You put your best pass rusher to go get the quarterback.
Yeah, that happens in college a lot, though. Like, they love those 3-man rushes and 8-man drops. And so, like, sometimes it makes it a little bit harder to scout those guys. Like, for me, like, I love Drake Jackson's game, but I had heard effort was a bit of a problem with him. But, you know, I think the bigger problem with him was, you know, constantly being fluctuated around, you know, always changing positions, dropping, adding weight all the time, not getting comfortable, right? Because I think that's the biggest key for especially for a defensive player, is being comfortable in what you're doing, right? If you're kind of thinking too much and not reacting, you're dead in the water, right? And for a guy like Drake Jackson, you want him literally just pitting his ears back and running right through the edge. You know, that's what you want from him. And so, he could have landed in a better situation. I'm excited for that pick. It's definitely, Drake Jackson a few years ago, if you asked, like, he did like a mock draft for 2022, people would have had him in the top 5. You know,
those 3-year earlies mock drafts right out of high school. You gotta love those.
Those are my all-time favorite because it's always like it's always those crazy 5 stars. And then, by the time we get there, you see a completely different top 32. But then the funny thing is a lot of the time, those drafts are actually better drafts than the ones that actually happened because a lot of those guys are just super talented or in a weird college situation, go to the pros and like, oh, this guy's sick. And then he's a good player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hey, Tone. So, hey, Johnny, I've been dominating this fantasy baseball league all season. And now my boy Tony just passed me up, and it's like rotisserie. So now I'm punching calculators trying to figure out what the hell I knew to try to get back on top. Tony, I'm coming for you. I'm coming.
He's coming, Tony. You better watch out.
Watch out. Hey, Johnny, that did it for all the burning questions. If we still got, 5 or 10 minutes, if you got another topic that you wanted to hit on, because we're done with
burning questions.
We're done with those.
I like it. I think the biggest topic right now is the one thing I think that everyone's paying too much attention to. And it's number 10, who's throwing to ball boys on the side. I don't want to hear his name anymore. I don't care.
He's number 10 from now on.
I don't care anymore. Like, you know what? Nothing, when you talk about him, it adds nothing to who's going to help this team, right? You want to talk about Jimmy, this is how you talk about him. The Niners didn't use that cap space to help Trey Lance, or by some miracle, this compensation will help Trey Lance next year, because any conversation about him is just, it's nonsense. It's nothing to do with the team that's currently going to be the 49ers. Now, I understand how people are saying, oh, Trey's not ready, so they're just having Jimmy on the wings. And we all know that's not true.
No,
but
he ain't on this team week 1. Number 10 ain't on this team week 1. Almost got me there.
I'm just sick of it. Just like stop. People just knock. I got off Twitter because I can't deal with it anymore. It's like he's not.
Hey, Johnny, I got something. You know what? I just remembered. If I don't say it now, I'll probably forget to say it. But I've been under I would call it a little bit of heat because I've been saying I don't like how Lance's arm. Let me get the arm angle. His arm angle's dropping down in some of these videos I see coming out. Right?
Yeah.
Where it's just I tend to see quarterbacks more up here. Lance is somewhere down here, and and I'm not the only one seeing it. Like I asked Jack Hammer, and he said the same thing. Like, yeah, the release point is low.
Yeah.
Grant Cohn, I talked to Grant and he was saying he validated it. Now Grant is a Trey stan. I like Trey. I'm really excited about Trey, but just the one question I have with him is the accuracy. And when I see this low angled throw, which could leave you potentially more susceptible to batted passes at the line, I don't know. Am I making too much out of it? People were kind of trying to throw me some heat because I pointed out Tom Brady's release is up here, right, and then Trey Lance is down here. I mean, there's quite a bit of angle.
Tom Brady's mechanics are like textbook. Like if you were to teach someone how to throw a football, you would tell them to watch Tom Brady. You wouldn't tell them to watch Aaron Rodgers because like in Mahomes, they can just do things other people can't. And Trey is kind of in that camp. So it's a genuine concern, right? Because he's not. It's not like Trey's a guy who's been ripping the ball 1,000 times, right? A sidearm delivery does affect your elbow. This is a problem that Matthew Stafford's currently having. That Phillip Rivers flared up on him at times. They throw kind of sidearm a little bit, and so it's a genuine question. Here's where I'm not as concerned right now. Maybe they're working on something with him because they want him to help him in the quick passing game, right? Getting that quick sidearm out, like say for like screens and stuff. Like also, it's always good to kind of have a couple more golf shots in your throwing motion, right? The more things you can do, the less defenses can do to put you in awkward situations. So the Niners could be working on something with him, right? And saying maybe try a little sidearm for certain throws, right? Because you don't want a ton of sidearm for throws over the middle because that's when D linemen stick their paws up and knock it down, and you throw bullet passes that get intercepted, right? But he could just be working on passes that are a little bit more underneath. But I have seen the sidearm a little bit as well on a couple of those deep balls to Aiyuk. So, it's possibly concerning because it looks like his mechanics are changing, which is not the best going into a season, unless, over the next few weeks he starts getting more accurate. But, it's a fair question. Like if you see a quarterback kind of doing something different, it is a fair question. So if people are killing you for that, I don't think that's unwarranted. Tom House, that's funny. Nice swan song. But no, yeah, it's not a completely unwarranted question. And for Trey, it's just going to be just run the offense, man. Just get in there, run the offense, and we'll be fine.
Hey, Johnny, thanks for dropping in. I had a great time. This was the debut of 49ers Fired Up. I mean, now we got quite the viewership. So make sure you guys like and subscribe. This is going to be the new hottest 49ers show. Every week it's going down. 49ers Fired Up. Get used to it. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. That Niner guy, aka Johnny, who I got with me, you got to make another appearance because Johnny, you know your stuff. It's always a pleasure having you on, and I think that's about to do it. You say your last words. Hey, follow this guy on Twitter too. We got to get his followers up. When he's done boycotting Twitter.
Dude, I read it for pure entertainment. But no, man, yeah, shoot me a note on Twitter. I love talking about the Niners. It's one of my I love talking about football. So anytime I get to hop on with you guys and shoot the it's great. Also, I would say for the Rams fans, enjoy the arm fatigue. It's fun.
Stafford's elbow about to fall off.
It's amazing how Florio and Cowherd just talk about Trey Lance's arm fatigue. It's amazing. And literally two MVP candidates in our division have arm fatigue, and they haven't said two freaking words. And I think it's great.
I'm with you. Slow TV text that says start calling people bums. Yeah, I'm going to start doing that. We got to turn up the heat. Today was hot. Next week is going to be even hotter.
Yeah, I don't believe in that.
You know what? I'm all about the hot takes. And you know what? I grew up with Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith. I like that banter shit going back and forth. No, that's bullshit. I like that stuff. Niners Warriors as what's your handle?
Oh, it's just that Niner guy.
That Niner guy.
It's literally just that Niner guy, yeah.
Yeah.
It's my alias.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm excited for this season. I think we all are. It's gonna be nice to see what we actually have a Trey. There are genuine concerns though. So like if you're on Twitter too and like wondering I wouldn't say like Trey's gonna be amazing. It's like you gotta see what we have here, right? We don't know. He doesn't even know. I mean, the kid's 22 years old. He's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. The nice thing is that he's got the best supporting cast a first-year starting quarterback maybe he's ever had since Tom Brady in New England. Like no other quarterbacks had a team like this around them as 22 and a first-year starter.
That's why I think this is a Super Bowl caliber team, Johnny.
No, and I agree, but there's a lot. Listen, I don't like to get caught up in the whole Super Bowl thing because like there's a long season. There's 18 weeks. A lot can go wrong. There's about 20 teams in the NFL this year who think they can win the Super Bowl this year, and it's actually fair. Like how loaded the AFC is, there's going to be a couple really great teams who don't make the playoffs and it's crazy.
Give me your sleeper team. Give me your sleeper team because I'll give you one. I tweeted this one out last week, and I went with the Indianapolis Colts. I think they got a good defense. Now, Matt Ryan, I see that as a big upgrade to Carson. I mean, big. I think it's an upgrade as to what Carson Wentz was. I think Matt Ryan's going to take care of the ball. He's more accurate. We know they like to run the ball. Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman. So the sleeper team that I went with, and I like the Chargers, but I don't think they're counted as a sleeper. But my sleeper team was the Colts.
Yeah, the Colts are an interesting one because they probably have the easiest of all. Like in the NFL, they probably have the easiest division, right? Playing Jacksonville and the Texans and the Titans have taken They've taken a massive step back this year. So yeah. I think the Colts are a good one. You know what team? I did like a little exercise where I ranked all the teams like total roster. Do you know who got second? It was the Eagles.
No kidding.
Like that team is freaking loaded on defense. It's unbelievable what they've done. I mean, they literally have 3 legit edge rushers, and Barrett's not that good, but Josh Sweat was he's coming off a really good year. They added Hassan
Fletcher
Reddick.
Cox is still the man in the middle.
They got Jaron Davis, who he was exactly the Fletcher Cox replacement, but he's faster than Fletcher Cox, even at his size.
They got another tackle I like too. Who's their other defensive tackle?
Hargraves.
Hargraves. I like Hargraves.
He's good too. And then the linebacking core, they added Kobe Dean. Howie doesn't really care about linebackers, but the secondary, man, they had a James Bradbury to go with Darius Slay, and they brought in Jaquaski Tart too as a backup. Like he's a solid NFL starter. He's not a starter.
I do like me some Tart.
And then what they did on their offensive line's always good. Howie always builds a great offensive line. They add AJ Brown with Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, and an interesting run game with Jalen Hurts. Like, I know that Hurts isn't the best quarterback in the league, but of all the quarterbacks, like just literally just don't turn the ball over and we'll win you games. The Niners might be number 2 in that. The Eagles might be number 1. Like that team is freaking loaded. Ooh, the Broncos are a fair pick too. It's just their division's so hard. I can't pick anyone out of the AFC West with good confidence, right? Because they're all going to play each other. They're going to wipe each other out. So it could be at the point where they're all 9-6 going into the last week of the year playing each other, and 2 teams that make the playoffs and 2 teams might not. That division could be absolutely crazy in week 18.
Hey, Brand New says the Raiders win in the AFC West, so I don't know.
I hope so. I
just want the Broncos needed to get my boy Vic Fangio a quarterback. Like I'd be higher on the Broncos if actually they kept Fangio and then brought in Russell Wilson, because I thought they were working with. I mean, what quarterbacks have they given Vic Fangio over there? Like Teddy B, really? That was. I mean, it was. I'd be higher on the Broncos if they had kept Vic. But we'll see. We'll see what the new regime does.
If I was Vic Fangio, I'd purposely not look for a job to make the new ownership group pay me out, because they totally screwed me. Like I would absolutely dig every dime I could, because you never have a chance if you don't have a quarterback. You never have a chance.
Slow TV's got inside info on Skip Bayless. That's not safe for YouTube. Jordan Davis is a beast. Hey guys, the comment section was lit. This was a lit. It was a hot show.
There we go.
The temperature was up. Johnny, we're gonna do this again, and I had a blast. But we got a Benito. Johnny, nice talking to you.
You too, guys. Take care.